When you first open Track What Matters, you'll come to this welcome page. This explains the thinking behind the assessment tool. It explains how to set it up and also how to use it. Now, if you've read anything about this tool or if you've been to one of our events, then you'll know this. I'm just going to stress it again. We firmly believe that early years practitioners' time is best spent working alongside children and planning learning opportunities that will stretch, challenge, and facilitate their ongoing development. We cannot stress that enough. We do not believe their time is best spent filling in endless pages on a spreadsheet or highlighting objectives in different colours and forming judgments around whether or not a child fits into one monthly band or another. This tool is designed to be really straightforward and simple. It can be used with any early years curriculum. And our belief is that your curriculum, if designed well, is your progression model. If a child is progressing through that curriculum as expected, then they are on track. If they're not progressing through that curriculum as expected, of course, we need to know who they are, and our practitioners will know what barriers there are to those children making the progress we hope they can make. And so therefore, that needs to be perhaps recorded in some way, and that's what this tool enables you to do. Now, to set the tool up, you head first of all to the Communication and Language tab. Because that's the first area of learning, the first tab on our sheet, that's where you're going to be entering contextual information about the pupils. Now on here, I've entered some fictional information about a list of made-up pupils. I've written their names down in this first column and then completed these columns here. Now each of these has a drop-down option. So choose the child's gender. If they're disadvantaged, then you can put yes or just leave blank if not. If they are on the SEND register, then again, put a Y for yes or leave blank if not. If they've been identified as a high attainer, maybe they haven't been yet at this stage, but if they have, then enter Y if that's applicable or leave blank if not. And likewise for the other characteristics. If I was to enter a new child to this list, I could simply type their name here at the bottom. That information is then copied across automatically to all the other tracking sheets, so you don't need to enter it multiple times. To scroll between the tabs at the bottom, you could click on the ones you can see and then select the three dots here to move further along, or you can right-click on these arrows and select the page you want to jump to. We're going to start with Communication and Language. Now with this fictional class, we've entered some fictional data. Now remember, this can be used with any curriculum, and what you're doing here is you're making one judgment. Are they on track to meet curriculum-related expectations, or are you monitoring them because they're not on track? That's all. How often you update this is up to you. But there's not additional columns, say for end of autumn, end of spring, or anything like that. You always put in the current judgment. So if you're completing this in October, you're deciding, is this child on track to meet curriculum-related expectations based on where they should be in October? If you're completing this in January, it's the same, but for January, and so on. Now, the reason it's useful to complete this rather than just have this same list, let's say, on a Word document or whatever, is because you get some instant analysis. There's nothing for you to do here. This is calculated automatically when you enter those judgments. We can see that for Communication and Language, for all of our pupils, currently 59% are on track, progressing through our curriculum as we would expect. 41% are not, and that means we're monitoring them more closely. That same information is then split up by pupil characteristic, based on what you'd entered into those columns earlier on. So with this fictional cohort, we can see that girls are significantly outperforming boys in Communication and Language. That's something that could be explored further as a practitioner in early years. And likewise, for other characteristics, you can see the data there. And if that's useful, then you can use that information. It works in the exact same way for the other areas of learning, so I'm not going to show you those because the data you get is exactly the same. If you've identified a child as monitoring, there's an optional monitoring page that you can complete. What you would do is enter the child's name here in this box. So I've put Amari's name in here. Now I'm monitoring Amari for communication and language. So in the next steps box here, I can write down what Amari's next steps are by typing into this box. If you want to start a new line in Excel, if you try and press enter, it will take you to the next cell, which obviously is not particularly helpful. So as a tip, you'll see it's popped up here that says hold down Alt and click enter to begin a new line within these cells. So if I hold down Alt, press enter, I can then type on the next line. So if you're entering a list of next steps, that's a useful little tip for keeping it neat and tidy in one box rather than it being one long line of text. And then down here, I can enter any actions that I'd like Amari the practitioners working with Amari to take to support him with his communication and language based on his next steps. So that could be around which members of staff will be deployed to support him in particular, what activities might be designed to help him further develop his communication and language. And in the same way, those actions can be entered here. At the end of the year, there's also a summer data tab. Again, this is entirely optional. Some schools may just wish to use the area of learning tabs for assessment throughout the year and the monitoring sheet. But if you want to use a summer data tab, then there's a way of getting some instant analysis from that too. If you head to summer data, then you'll see we have our cohort of fictional pupils listed here, and their characteristics have been copied across automatically. And then on this sheet here, for each early learning goal, I've made my assessment judgments, awarding, in line with the new framework, a 1 or a 2. Again, there's a drop-down box for you to select the appropriate judgment. Once you've entered all that data in there, you can head to the Summer Data Analysis tab, the next one along, or again using the arrows right-click, and here it is. Now there's lots of information here. There's a large amount of statistical data. For each early learning goal within each area of learning, we are shown the number and percentage of pupils graded as emerging at the end of reception, and the number and percentage of pupils graded expected at the end of reception. So you can see here for listening, attention and understanding, in this cohort, 70% achieved expected at the end of reception. This information is provided for all pupils across this first row. And further down, it's provided for specific groups. So we could compare, let's say, boys to girls, disadvantaged to all pupils, and so on. Now, whilst we don't anticipate you'll need all of this data here, it's there if you need it. The percentage expected is highlighted yellow if it's below 85%, and it's highlighted green if it's 85% or above. This is just to make it easier to spot patterns. So for example, over here in Understanding the World, Past and Present, we can see just by glancing down that column and seeing lots of green that pupils across almost every characteristic group are achieving highly and have met the expected level for the end of reception. The final, or the second to last sheet to show you, is the good level of development sheet. This again is populated automatically based on the summer data you enter in the summer data sheet. Now this sheet, like many others, is locked, so you can't type in and make changes. It will just simply provide you with some analysis. So again, we see our cohort of pupils, we see their characteristics, and their information. And then this column here tells you the number of ELGs for GLD with a score of expected. So of course, if this is 12, then they've got a good level of development. Across here, we have some analysis. So I can see for this fictional cohort, 63% of pupils have a good level of development, and that's broken down to by these various pupil groups. We also have some pupil reports. Now these are optional and can be shared with parents at the end of the early years foundation stage. The reason these might be helpful is because they're populated for you based on the data you enter in the Summer Data tab. So the pupil's name is automatically copied at the top, and that will be their full name because you'll be able to write their full name into the box. Then the judgments from the Summer Data sheet are copied across onto here for you. There's a short explanation for parents about what those judgments mean, and then the space for a teacher comment. This box you can type into, and of course, if you hold down Alt, you can press Enter a couple of times and start a new paragraph, and so on. When you press Print, so Control P, this page is designed to fit onto an A4 sheet of paper and so can easily be printed for parents. We hope you found this walkthrough helpful. This has been designed for us to use at our school, and we're sharing it more widely just in case others find it useful. If you do find it useful, we'd love to hear from you. You can tweet us at Parbold Douglas, or on the website, on the page where you downloaded this document from, there is a box at the bottom for you to send us a comment. And that will come through as an email to us, and we'll be sure to get back to you. Thank you very much.